Hey guys, what's up? We all grew up with a favorite cartoon series where we laughed at funny characters and enjoyed child-friendly adventures. But have you ever thought about the meaning the creators could have had when they made the shows? What if there was a second layer in the cartoons we loved as kids? And probably still today. What if these cartoons are about more than just child entertainment? To find out, let's dive in my personal favorite cartoon conspiracy theories. Before we start, I'd like to mention that these are just theories, and I do not necessarily believe in all of them, but I like to speculate about them, and I think it's just a fun thing to read/hear. So let's get into it. The Rugrats are figments of Angelica's imagination. This theory claims that none of the Rugrats are real. It was Angelica who created them in her head after tragedy struck her surroundings. Chucky died along with his mother, which explains why Chess is such a nervous wreck all the time. Tommy died as a stillborn, the reason why Stu is always making toys in the basement, to cope with the loss of his only child. The DeVilles had an abortion, and since Angelica didn't know whether the baby was a boy or a girl, she created the twins. Angelica was a schizophrenic and was addicted to acid, what brought back the memory of the baby she imagined as a child. Her mother was also an addict who died of an overdose shortly after Angelica was born. And Angelica stepped into her mother's footsteps at the age of 15. Only Dale and Susie actually existed. Growing up, Angelica would frequently hit Dale because he was a baby that didn't want to do what she wanted him to do. And because of this, he suffered brain damage. Susie was Angelica's only friend growing up, and she was very entertained by her stories about the babies. When Angelica died, Susie created the show Rugrats. Donald Duck suffers from PTSD. This theory claims that Donald has a high temper and anger issues because he suffers from PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder, because he was dragged into the war, which is a fact. In the earlier comics, Donald would get flashbacks from his time in World War II. For example, there is a comic that exists where Donald chases after his nephews after accusing them from stealing food from his fridge. To prove that it was Donald himself who steals out of his fridge while he is sleepwalking, his nephews lay off firecrackers to wake him up. But this plan kind of backfired, because when Donald wakes up from the firecrackers, he gets a terrible flashback to World War II and he thinks that he's walking in a minefield. Smurfs represent Nazis. This theory claims that the Smurfs represent Nazis or KKK members. This shows in 1. Their clothes, because they're all white except for Papa Smurfs, whose clothes are red, just like the leader of the KKK members. 2. The skin color, which is blue and represents Aryan purity, blonde hair, blue eyes. And their enemy Gargamel. Gargamel wants to steal the Smurfs and turn them into gold. This money-hungry attitude, along with his big nose, could represent a Jewish stereotype. Also, he has a cat named Azrael, which is the angel of death in the Hebrewic Bible. The creator of the Smurfs was born in Belgium in 1928, which means he grew up when the Nazis were gaining power in Europe. This could be the reason why he used these stereotypes and idolizations. Ash is in a coma. This theory claims that Ash is in a coma ever since the first episode where he is struck by lightning. This is the reason why he never seems to age, and he can be the best trainer in the world even though he didn't have much of training. This is also the reason why there are everywhere Sister Joyce and Officer Jenny's, because he remembers him from his hometown. It is stated that Ash has to become a Pokemon master in order to wake up from his coma. Everyone he meets on his journey is an aspect of himself. Only Mewtwo is not. He is an electric impulse treatment the doctors use to try to wake Ash up from his coma. The Powerpuff Girls are normal girls. This theory claims that the Powerpuff Girls are just normal girls who pretend to be superheroes. The mayor is the grandfather of the girls who plays along with them. He calls them and thanks them for their imaginary heroic actions. But where do all the villains come from, you ask? Well, according to this theory, Mojo Jojo is the girl's stepbrother who is sexually interested in them. Fuzzy Lumpkins is a strange neighbor who plays pranks on the girls all the time. The Gangrene Gang are just normal teenagers. You know, the big kids that are scary to little children. And him is the girl's uncle. The reason why he's evil is because he's homosexual. And Professor Utonium is really against that. He doesn't talk much about his brother. only that homosexuality is a devil's work, and he simply tells the girls to stay away from him. Pinky is a genius and Brain is the insane. This theory claims that Pinky is the smart one and Brain is actually the crazy one. Every episode goes like this. Brain makes a plan to take over the world. Pinky tells him how that could go wrong. Brain ignores him. Pinky turns out to be right. And the plan fails. Also, it is shown throughout the series that Pinky can read, and Brain can even spell his own name. But the most reliable evidence comes from the episode The Smurfs. In this episode, Brain makes a machine that tells him why his plans keep failing, and the machine blames it on Pinky. But after Brain puts Pinky in a smart machine, Pinky doesn't seem to change. And Pinky even discovers a mistake in the plan's first machine. After fixing the first machine, it says that Brain is the reason why his plans keep failing. And wasn't there some scientist that said that the definition of insanity was doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result? And every episode ends with Pinky asking the Brain what the plans are for the next day, and Brain always replies with, "The same thing we do every night, Pinky, try to take over the world." Ed, Ed and Eddie, the purgatory theory. This theory claims that all the kids in Ed, Ed and Eddie are dead. Each kid died in a different area of time and still represents that specific area. Rolf died in the 1900s as a farmer's kid, when he got trampled by his animals. Johnny died in the 1920s, when a piece of wood as a friend was perfectly normal. Eddie died during the Great Depression, what explains his greedy behavior. Ed and Sarah died in a car crash in the 1950s, where women were getting stronger and zombie movies and comics were extremely popular. Ness died as a flower girl in the 1960s. Double D died in the 1980s when one of his experiments went wrong. And Kevin died on his way to the hospital in the 1990s when his drunk and abusive father beat him. Last, Jimmy died of leukemia in the 2000s. And because of his condition, he wasn't much around other kids. The cankers were believed to be demons sent from hell to torture the lost souls of the children who never made it to heaven. Whew, that's some stuff to think about. Which one was your favorite theory? Let me know in the comments down below. Do you believe in them, or do you think it's just weird speculation? If you like this video, don't forget to give it a thumbs up, and don't forget to subscribe to my channel for more creepy videos. Bye guys!